What happens when a reality TV star known for her journey through dating suddenly finds herself at the center of attention alongside one of the biggest names in music? That is exactly the question viewers are asking after Little Singles star Krista was reportedly spotted getting close to Drake during a night out at a Toronto club. Footage from the evening has quickly caught attention, particularly moments showing the pair dancing together and appearing physically comfortable in each other's company. For some viewers, the interaction looked playful and friendly. For others, the apparent closeness immediately raised a much bigger question. Could this have been more than just a night out? The speculation becomes even more interesting because Krista has already been at the center of conversations about dating, attraction, and relationships on Little Singles. Viewers have watched her navigate emotional connections, uncertainty, and the complicated world of modern dating. Now, seeing her alongside Drake has created an entirely different storyline. But before jumping to conclusions, there is an important distinction to make. What can we actually see in the footage, and what are viewers simply assuming? A video of two people dancing together doesn't automatically prove that they are dating. Likewise, an affectionate-looking moment doesn't necessarily confirm a romantic relationship. Without a direct statement from Krista or Drake explaining what happened that night, the nature of their relationship remains unclear. And that uncertainty is exactly what has made the footage so fascinating. Introduction. Krista has become a recognizable personality for viewers following Little Singles, particularly because her dating journey has involved questions about chemistry, compatibility, and what happens when emotions become complicated. But this latest situation takes her story outside the world of reality television and into the spotlight surrounding one of the world's most recognizable music stars. Drake is no stranger to intense public attention. His social life, friendships, and relationships have frequently become subjects of online discussion, meaning that even a seemingly casual public appearance can quickly become a major talking point. So when footage appeared showing Drake and Krista together at a Toronto club, viewers naturally started looking for clues. Why were they there together? Was this simply a social night with friends? Was it an introduction between two people who happened to spend time together? Or was there actually a romantic connection developing behind the scenes? Then there is the body language, the dancing, the apparent closeness, the moments that some viewers interpreted as cuddling or affection. Each individual moment may not tell us very much on its own, but when several moments are viewed together, it's easy to understand why social media users began asking whether there was something more happening between them. Still, interpretation isn't the same thing as confirmation. Throughout this video, we'll separate what appears in the footage from the theories and conclusions being discussed online. Rather than declaring that Krista and Drake are a couple, we'll look at why their interaction has generated so much attention and what it could, or could not, mean. We'll explore why Krista and Drake were reportedly together, whether the evening can reasonably be described as a date, what viewers believe their body language suggested, and why those dancing and affectionate moments became such a major part of the conversation. And perhaps most importantly, we'll consider whether this unexpected encounter has any connection to Krista's larger dating journey on Little Singles. Because if there's one thing reality television has taught viewers, it's that a single unexpected moment can completely change the way people look at a person's story. So was this simply a fun night in Toronto? Was it the beginning of something new? Or are viewers turning an intriguing moment into a much bigger romance than the available evidence actually supports? Those are the questions we'll be exploring. To understand why Krista's latest appearance has generated so much attention, it helps to look back at the journey that brought her here. On Little Singles, Krista's story has been about more than simply finding a date. Like many people navigating modern relationships, she has had to balance attraction with communication, expectations, uncertainty, and the question of whether another person is truly looking for the same kind of connection. Dating can be complicated enough in private, But Krista is doing it in front of cameras, surrounded by other cast members, and with an audience ready to analyze every conversation, reaction, and moment of chemistry. That adds another layer to an already difficult process. Throughout her time on the show, viewers have had the opportunity to see different sides of Krista. There are moments when she appears confident and open to connection, but there are also situations where uncertainty becomes part of the story. A conversation that might seem ordinary in everyday life can take on a completely different meaning when viewers are watching it back and trying to understand what happened. And that's one of the reasons Krista's relationships have become such a point of interest. Whenever someone new appears to enter her romantic orbit, fans naturally begin asking questions. Is there genuine chemistry? Are both people interested? Is this simply a fun night out, or could it develop into something more meaningful? Those questions become even louder when the person involved is someone as recognizable as Drake. But it's important to separate what viewers can actually see from what they may assume. A dance, a close conversation, or an affectionate-looking moment can certainly create curiosity, but it doesn't automatically establish the nature of a relationship. Without direct confirmation from the people involved, viewers are left interpreting what is publicly visible, and that can lead to very different conclusions. Krista's journey also highlights one of the central ideas behind Little Singles: the search for genuine connection while navigating the pressures that come with being publicly observed. There is the pressure of the cameras. There is the pressure of knowing that conversations may become part of an episode. And then there is the pressure of social media, where a short clip can be replayed, analyzed, reposted, and discussed by thousands of people within hours. For someone trying to figure out their feelings, that environment can make an already complicated experience even more difficult. A person might want to take their time before defining a relationship. Viewers, however, may want answers immediately. They may see two people laughing together and immediately wonder if they're dating. They may notice physical closeness and interpret it as romance. They may also compare a new connection with relationships they've seen earlier in the show. That gap between what the people involved experience and what the audience believes they are seeing is one of the most fascinating parts of reality television. And Krista's story sits directly inside that tension. Her journey isn't simply about whether she ends up with one particular person. It's also about how she handles attraction, uncertainty, expectations, and the challenge of making personal decisions while the public is watching. That's why this latest development has attracted so much attention. If Krista really is exploring a new connection, viewers will naturally want to know where it goes. But the bigger question may be whether the connection has the foundation to survive beyond one exciting night, one viral clip, or one highly discussed appearance. Because chemistry can create a moment. But communication, trust, compatibility, and genuine interest are what ultimately determine whether that moment becomes something more. And as Krista's story continues, those are the details viewers will be watching most closely. Krista's journey on Little Singles has never been simply about going on dates and deciding whether there is chemistry. Like many of the people featured on the show, she has had to navigate something much more complicated: the challenge of trying to build a genuine connection while knowing that her experiences are being watched, discussed, and interpreted by an audience. Dating is already filled with uncertainty. You meet someone, try to understand their personality, figure out whether the attraction is mutual, and decide how much of yourself you are comfortable revealing. But when those moments happen in front of cameras, the pressure can become even greater. A conversation that might feel private in ordinary life can suddenly become a moment that viewers analyze frame by frame. For Krista, that has meant dealing with questions about attraction, communication, and expectations. Is there real chemistry between two people, or is it simply the excitement of a new situation? Is someone genuinely interested, or are they still trying to understand what they want? And perhaps most importantly, are both people looking for the same kind of relationship? Those questions are at the center of Krista's story. What makes her journey especially interesting to viewers is that relationships rarely develop in a straight line. There can be moments when two people appear completely comfortable with each other, followed by uncertainty or hesitation. A promising conversation can create excitement, while one confusing interaction can suddenly leave everyone wondering what happens next. That uncertainty is part of what keeps audiences invested. Viewers don't just watch to find out who goes on a date with whom. They watch to understand the emotional journey behind those interactions. They want to know whether attraction develops into something deeper, whether communication becomes clearer, and whether two people can overcome the differences that initially stand between them. Krista's story has naturally become part of that larger conversation. And whenever a new romantic possibility enters the picture, the attention can grow quickly. A photo, a public appearance, a shared moment, or footage showing two people spending time together can lead to immediate questions about what their relationship actually means. But this is where an important distinction needs to be made. Seeing two people together does not automatically prove that they are in a relationship. A close moment can suggest chemistry, but it does not necessarily tell us what happened before or after the cameras were present. Likewise, social media reactions can reveal what viewers think, but they cannot always establish what the people involved are actually feeling. That distinction is particularly important when discussing Krista's dating life. Reality television creates an unusual environment where personal moments can quickly become public conversations. Viewers see selected interactions, producers shape the presentation of a story, and social media adds another layer of interpretation. Suddenly, something that may have been a simple moment between two people can become the subject of thousands of comments and theories. For someone trying to find a genuine connection, that environment can be difficult. Imagine trying to determine whether you truly like someone while also knowing that strangers may have opinions about every conversation, every expression, and every decision you make. The pressure can influence how comfortable people feel opening up. It can also make ordinary uncertainty appear much more dramatic than it might be in everyday life. That is one of the central themes of Little Singles. The show is not simply about finding a partner. It is also about what happens when people attempt to date while navigating expectations from other people. There are expectations from potential partners, expectations from friends and family, expectations from viewers, and sometimes expectations that people place on themselves. Krista's journey illustrates how complicated that process can become. Attraction may be immediate, but trust takes time. Chemistry can create excitement, but communication determines whether that excitement can develop into something meaningful. And even when two people appear compatible, they still have to decide whether their expectations for a relationship actually match. That is why viewers continue to pay attention to Krista's relationships. They are not just watching for a romantic outcome. They are watching to see whether the connections she forms can survive the realities of dating, uncertainty, vulnerability, communication, expectations, and the possibility of disappointment. And now, whenever Krista is seen sharing a seemingly close moment with someone new, those questions return once again. Is this simply another moment in her journey? Could it represent a genuine romantic connection? Or are viewers seeing only one small part of a much larger story? For now, those questions remain open, and perhaps that uncertainty is exactly what makes Krista's journey so compelling. Because underneath all the speculation, the social media reactions, and the attention surrounding every new development is a much simpler goal. The same goal shared by so many people navigating modern dating. Finding someone who genuinely understands you, communicates with you, and wants the same kind of connection. And for Krista, that search is happening under a spotlight. At this point in the story, it's important to take a step back and separate what has actually been reported from what viewers may be assuming. What do we know? Krista and Drake were reportedly seen together at a Toronto club, and footage showing them interacting quickly attracted attention online. Their body language, dancing, and apparent closeness became the focus of discussion, particularly among viewers already familiar with Krista through Little Singles. Those moments are real enough to explain why the story has generated so much curiosity. When two recognizable personalities are seen together in an intimate-looking setting, people naturally start asking questions about the nature of their relationship. But that brings us to the much bigger question: what don't we know? We don't currently have enough information to say that Krista and Drake are officially dating. We don't know whether the outing was intended as a romantic date, a casual night out, or simply two people enjoying the same social environment. We also don't know whether there is a serious relationship developing behind the scenes. A few affectionate moments can certainly create speculation, but they don't automatically establish a relationship. Context matters. What happened before the footage? What happened afterward? Were other friends present? And most importantly, what do Krista and Drake themselves say about the situation? Those questions remain unanswered. That's why it's important not to turn an interesting sighting into a confirmed relationship before the people involved actually provide that confirmation. For viewers, the most responsible approach is to enjoy the moment for what it is while keeping the bigger conclusions open. If Krista and Drake really are developing something romantic, additional appearances, statements, or future developments may eventually make that clearer. And if this was simply a memorable night between two people who happen to be together in Toronto, the story could look very different once the full context becomes available. For now, the safest conclusion is simple. Krista and Drake were reportedly seen together. Their interaction attracted significant attention, but the nature of their relationship has not been definitively established. And sometimes, in reality television and celebrity news, knowing what we don't know can be just as important as knowing what we do. So, after all the footage, the speculation, and the conversations surrounding that night in Toronto, we arrive back at the question that started it all. Is there really something between Krista and Drake? There's no denying that Krista's night with Drake has created a wave of attention. Moments of dancing, apparent closeness, and affectionate-looking interactions can become especially significant when they involve a reality TV personality whose dating life is already being followed closely by fans. And once those moments appear online, the story can quickly grow beyond what the original footage actually shows. For some viewers, the interaction may look like the beginning of a romantic connection. Others may see it as nothing more than two people enjoying a night out together. And that difference in interpretation is exactly why it's important to separate what has been observed from what has been assumed. At this point, unless Krista or Drake directly confirms the nature of their relationship, the idea that they are officially dating should remain speculation, not established fact. We don't know whether this was a one-time encounter, a genuine friendship, the beginning of something romantic, or simply a moment that happened to attract cameras and social media attention. And perhaps that uncertainty is what makes the story so fascinating. Krista's journey on Little Singles has been about navigating attraction, expectations, communication, and the complicated search for genuine connection. Now, one highly publicized night with one of the biggest names in music has added an entirely new layer to that journey. But one night doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. What happens next could be far more revealing than what happened in that Toronto club. If Krista speaks publicly, if Drake addresses the situation, or if the two are seen together again, viewers may finally have more context for understanding what this moment actually meant. Until then, the best approach is to enjoy the conversation without turning theories into facts. Because sometimes, the most interesting reality TV stories aren't the ones where we immediately know the answer. They're the ones that leave us wondering what happens next. So, is Krista and Drake's connection the start of something real, or was it simply one memorable night in Toronto? For now, we just don't know. And maybe that's the question worth watching. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.